Hi, Amanda. I finally get to talk to you.
Hi, Christine.
No, it's a pleasure. And I really want to thank you for giving some of your time to speak with me and explore some things. And just real quick, my name's Christine Anderson, and I've had a long-standing blog. I went really silent right after the rollout of the big COVID. And but I did put up 2 articles that featured Amanda's work and some other people's work. Unfortunately, most of the links are dead now. So I'm just leaving them there as a testament to the amount of censorship we've gone through. And I just want to take off with you from that point. And so my own research, I'm a multi-stream deep diver. I've been doing this for many, many years. And I really feel like it's time for us to come up out of the rabbit holes and take all this acquired knowledge that we've gotten from our past, from our lost history, maybe from our own genetic memory, and start bringing it into not just to the public's attention, but my sense is that, first of all, we need to rebuild trust in our natural divine biology. And terrain theory is the greatest place to start from because it brings in the pH, the electric field, magnetism. And I think that that's the cusp, the very beginning of what we're going to be able to discover, not just about our human biology, but about creation itself. And I'm sure you're aware, Amanda, and other people are, that all that research got cut off when the Rothschild or Rockefeller Foundation came in and turned our medicine into pharmakia, or pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, which is put most humans on this planet under a spell. And so I don't know if you would want to talk. I've been looking more at pleomorphism. I know you've talked about the work of Antoine Duchamp, which is pretty well known now. Claude Bernard, who coined terrain theory. But from your point of view, Amanda, your understanding of it, your own research, because you have the credentials. I don't have the credentials, you know. I mean, I've gone into papers on virology and I made myself go through them. And all I could think is they're written in fucking code. Even the research itself, you know, when they have their own code words, they have their own way of, you know, so no wonder that the public in general won't even make that attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't envy those individuals who don't have maybe the mind for it, or they focused on the distractions more than the questions. And there's different types of people. I mean, I always wanted to know everything, and there's people they don't. So that's a primary difference in how you approach your world and what you're looking for in this reality. And I wanted to know, and I still want to understand and know. More so these days, I wish to settle down a lot of the stirred waters, because as you know, when the waters are stirred up, it creates mud, essentially. And there have been a lot of different bounces around for, you know, now you're on this topic, now this topic. And I feel like it's at least becoming time to just try to go inward and settle again and look at what is this all really taught us, and where do we put our energy now? Because it's exhausting, obviously, all of this emotionally and mentally and psychically, to realize, at least from my perspective, to realize that the world is under a spell, but also that they've been, you know, portraying these illusions in such a way that their minds are not able to get out of their cave or out of their hall of mirrors.
Right.
And I thought, I guess in my youth, you know, I'm 47 now, and when I was in my 20s, I really did believe that once people saw what was possible in this place, that they would want it, and they would give up their bad habits and their addictions.
I
I wanted that so much, you know,
understand.
and I have to eat the reality pie that most people just aren't. And dealing with this sort of the loneliness feeling, even though I still do feel a connection, especially to earth and to God, and
Mhm.
you know, that I do feel that, but I always was considered myself, you know, connected to all of us, and that's one of the reasons why I began to teach, because I wanted to assist and I wanted us to get there together, right? And so there's still learning, and I'm still obviously creating, and all of those things are happening, but it's interesting because the underlying motivations are changing, and I have to settle those waters in order to understand, what am I doing this for now? What is this for? Because it's obviously not really going to be for whatever my mind thought was going to happen as people, you know, evolved through their spiritual awakening and
Yeah.
awareness.
I'll share a little bit about my own journey, since you're talking along that line. And when you say the water is settled, well, the well of truth is extremely deep, and you do have to let all the water settle. And one of the things that I found the ability to do, I just turned 69, so I have a few more years, but was to situate and seat myself in a place of peace, of stillness. And for me, that's where all rises, where you have this alignment with soul, heart, mind, and you could say God, mind, or the Godhead. And when you're in that very quiet place, when everything's settled down, one of the reasons I love my ability to look at flat earth, where so many people won't look at it. As soon as I got it, you talked about being on the earth, right? The connection. I was like breathtaking to me in a very subtle way, that I'm sitting on a still, I'm not spinning through space at godly speeds, you know? And then as soon as I could sit with the earth in the stillness, and then all of a sudden the sun became something totally different. It became a body of knowledge. It became radiant light, really radiant life giving. And so I think that's essential. And I would love to hear you say that, because that's my message. I also have a health shop. I also do my own products. So I deal with people on a one-on-one basis. And like you said, the disillusionment I had to go through of people don't want to know. So many, they don't want to understand you're inhabited in this divine creation, and they really are ignorant. They're like willfully ignorant, like not paying attention to it. And the simplest things that can bring back health, like changing diet, detoxing, all the things that you've shared so generously, it's too much for them. They rather buy, even supplements have become a type of medical intervention in a way, because I want to take that pill, you know, because I read somewhere out there that I need this and I'm going to take this and somehow it's magically going to cure me. And so I work a lot with people on just getting them seated in themselves, like instead of me telling them what they need, trying to get them to feed back to me what they need.
Yes, that is, it's so important to try to engender that in people. And, you know, another thing I've been reflecting on along those lines is, even in the awake or the truth community, or those who know, you know the controllers, know the game, know that we don't live on a spinning ball, all of those sorts of things, I'm still not seeing this level of spiritual maturity and ability to work together, and find some cohesion. I still feel a lot of discord, and that was another part that kind of made me feel unsettled. Again, even if we were to form our own little communities, if people aren't resolved in their ego needs and their subconscious traumas and so forth, if they haven't done that, it's just going to create the same kinds of messes, maybe just different messes.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's, I don't know, I guess every now and again, there's this time where you put out and you create, and I'm a creative and you're creative, right? So you're always creating and putting out and output. And then there comes a time where you have to just stop. And this is why, one would need to have a retreat or a vacation or some sort of change. And I know that has been prevented for a lot of us to be able to do that lately.
Something of restoration.
Yeah, even recreation.
Our restoration. Like we need a time to restore.
Restore, exactly. Yeah. Yes, restoration, yes. Exactly. But all of these, even within those topics that you just mentioned, there's still discourse and all kinds of things going on. And I remember when I first did that particular deep dive on the flat earth topic, of course, as always, you'll think it's crazy, or you'll think the person is crazy. That, it taught me that that's a normal reaction. And if I ever get that again, if I ever start judging someone for saying something that I think is outrageous, and I immediately go into judgment, then I have to stop and I have to look at that. I have to now.
I love that, because that is key for me, because like you said, this has been a very stirred up time. I've noticed all the same things. And, I noticed so many, I was involved way before this all happened with a whole group of online truth teller celebrities. And they're mostly speaking out of their ego, right? They don't understand that each individual has a perspective. I have a unique perspective. I feel very aligned with yours. I do. When I first discovered you, I thought, God, this is a woman of spirit. I love it. But the judgment factor, and I was judging. I mean, I was judging people on subtle levels by their religion. I was judging them by wearing a mask. I was judging them by not wanting to wake up, and I was getting really frustrated. And when I finally was able to get deep enough inside myself to stop it, and it really stopped, I've seen little miracles from that. That's in my personal life, just in the people that come around me. All of a sudden, people that didn't kind of, who is she? What's she talking about? She seems angry. She seems this. A lot of them have come back, and they just feel like they're in this safe, peaceful space. And interestingly, then they start to wake up. They do. I've had, 2 people that won't get vaccinated, not because I told them anything, but it's that judgment thing. And I see it out there, of course, but we're talking through a screen, Amanda. And I mean, it's one of the harder things to train yourself is there's big personalities out there, and they've developed a persona, and they may be sharing truth, but it's their persona that not only are they attached to it, they're usually making their living off of it. So when somebody comes in with something different, they're often not in that position to just, hey, let's explore. And
it's really no different. And if you look at it like that, then it's really no different than someone who feels like they have to get a vaccine to continue to work, or get a job, wear a mask to go to school or something, because they feel like their survival or their security depends upon that, right? And it's the same thing if they're in the truth community or wherever, or whatever fringe community you want to call it. If they're not in authenticity in any way, and they're just trying to shape a brand, I can still appreciate that. Of course, I can still appreciate it and understand it to some level, right? But that's not what I would personally want to do for myself, because I feel like at some point you would lose yourself through it. Imagine years and years of continuing to do that because you think you have to do it, because you have to keep this illusion going, right? Yeah. And that illusion can get bigger and heavier.
Yeah. Well, I totally get it, because, and it's a weird ego trip too, even on the other side of it, because I had a growing audience, and I had a really well-read blog, and, just different things I'd done in my life got a lot of attention, a big Facebook group. And then I went silent. I just went silent. And I'm really happy I did, because I also had to go through my own process with that. Well, I have to get my affirmation of my own being, not from the outside world, but from the inside world. So it gave me an opportunity to explore that, as uncomfortable as it can be. I think most people, and I would love you to talk about this in the terms of biology, that because I called this expanded human consciousness, right? Well, we can't have an expanded consciousness if we're full of false beliefs, if we've been indoctrinated into this paradigm, if most of our energy is going towards proving we're right, one way or the other, which is unfortunately the medical field, and even the doctors that have helped other people see that this was all a fraud, they're still in that, right?
Mhm.
So until you can pull your energy back out of that and find the inner core, and then it's hard to find people, Amanda, that can do that. It really is. It's, but I also feel like this is something that's coming for us. This is part of where we have to evolve to as human beings. Not everybody's going to want to take the ride. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen out of this. But I
No.
see it as a necessary. I'm not
But-
even angry at the players on the stage. To me, they're fulfilling something for us as humans to find a greater purpose in our life, if you want to put it that way. I'm sure there's a better way to put it.
Well, you touched on something that, everyone can do if they don't know. And it's really just your own work that's before you. I mean, that's the presentment. That's what you do. You do the work every day. And I'm not talking about your 9-to-5 job. I'm talking about, did you lose your cool today? I lost my cool today. Okay, I lost my cool today. Wow. Why? Put the kid gloves on and go, why did you lose your cool today? Was it because you didn't sleep well? Was it because, it didn't go the way you thought it was going to go? Or did someone say something? Or what was it?
What triggered it?
What triggered it? And that's your work. That's right there. That's what you work on. Everything else takes care of itself. Just like you said, when I stopped judging other people, the energy coming off of the judgment was like a repelling energy where it's subtle and you don't see it, but you feel it. And everybody feels some sense off people, even if they don't know what it might be, right? And so then when that relaxes, now it's an attraction energy. Now it's different.
Exactly.
So that's the work. So what got you stirred up in that? And then I go through all the same things. I changed the voice in my head because it's always like the judge for me, so I have to remove the judge and put in my kind self-mothering voice. It says, it's okay. You're okay. It's okay. Yeah. Nothing bad's going to happen out of it. You might be, your hormones might be off today, or you don't maybe know what it was, but that's okay. You're going to just make amends for it. And you're going to forgive yourself, and it's fine that you made the mistake. Clean it. You drop something on the floor. What are you going to do? Just leave it there? No, you're going to clean it up. You're going to replace it. You're going to do what you have to do. It's very simple. It becomes very simple. And I find as the more that I read, learn, absorb, the more I want to just get it down to essence. I don't want all this fluff anymore. I'm not into the finer details unless I'm researching and I have to, but
Right.
I'm like, what's the essence? What's important? And also there's something happening in the other realms or something, because I don't feel like I'm here all the time. It's very strange.
Oh God. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I have some long-standing friendships. They're online friendships and we talk quite often. And that's the most common thing I hear from people that are evolving. Okay. If you're not doing that work you just described, is that I'm not here. And I'm getting comfortable with not being fully here. I can still go about and do my tasks and get up and feed myself and go to my shop. Very grateful that I actually have that routine in my life, because sometimes otherwise I think I would just be like, and I do know people. I mean, I do know people that get so pulled out into the other realms that they don't know how to walk on the earth anymore. So they're
Yeah,
stumbling
it's
around
not,
too.
yeah, and I've done the that where I was totally not present in my body. And so there's different, there's a different way of explaining the sensation, because I've been not here when I've completely dissociated from exhaustion. So that's a different kind of feeling of not here.
Right.
I've been not here when I've done like 10 days of meditation and sort of intensive stuff, and that sort of not here. There's something else that's a bit different that I'm noticing, and it could be because they're playing around with the ether, with the technologies, with what's changing inside of everyone who's gotten the shots, and what that repercussion is, what they're spraying, and what's happening with nature. So it's a different not there. It just feels there's this interesting detachment energy that I'm not. I'm getting lines here because I feel like I'm doing that like
what is that? Well, I mean, and
all day.
like I'm putting it into, like the higher realms, but you're absolutely right. We are being bombarded with frequencies, toxicity, what's coming off of people that have taken the jab. I got really, really sick last September. Like I generally have a really strong constitution. I have a good detox cycle in my body. I've tried so many things. I've done so many detoxes and fasting, and I've been doing urine therapy now for 3 months. And so, it's an experiment in a way. I was just experimenting on myself. Oh, that sounds like fun. Let me do that, Seeing now that this has really helped me. But all of a sudden, like, bam. I mean, one day I started having pain in the mid part of my back, so much that I couldn't even, it took me like 5 minutes to turn over in bed. And then it spread through all of my body, and I lost all of my strength. And I was like, okay, what's happening now? I tend to take things as an advisory wake-up call. So I determined not to do a diagnosis. I so dislike diagnosis because as soon as they slap that label on you, man, you're manifesting it.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing I did was I super cleaned out my diet, like all the cheeses, everything. I mean, I was just basically on some soup broths that I made and some fresh salads, and that was it. Then I heard about urine therapy. I did a 9-day urine fast. And then I went to a couple of very trusted friends who actually do beautiful energy work, which put me into, because I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. That's what triggered that memory right now, Amanda. Usually if I know somebody's really pissed at me, or somebody's saying bad things, or somebody's mounting an attack out there, I usually can track it and see it. I could not figure out where it was coming from. I just couldn't figure it out. So we are, no matter where we look really on that level, or on what's going to happen to us on this earth plane, we're in the great unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels very day by day. I'm here. Okay. I guess we're doing this. We'll do today then.
Okay.
All right. See what happens tomorrow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know anybody that's been looking at this for a long time. We know that the whole shebang's coming down. It has to, because it was all built on falsehoods.
Mm-hmm.
It was hidden sorcery, falsehoods, mind implants, mind control, all the things, and especially with the development of the technologies they have. I mean, it is going to happen. I mean, we're not going to just all of a sudden stop and go back to where we were. No, this is it can become a huge evolutionary jump, or it can become a dystopia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why what you said earlier is people have to teach themselves the skill of self-awareness the most, because, and now I went too far, maybe the other way, where my self-awareness went into perfectionism, but that was just the way that I grew up, type A and that sort of thing. So I had to sort of tone it back a little bit. But self-aware doesn't mean picking on yourself. It means just a non-attached awareness, right? Where you're checking in. And I wanted to mention, this gentleman who lives nearby, and he does, an elderly gentleman, and he every night before bed he reflects on his entire day, and he goes through his day in his head, and he thinks about if he had done something maybe to that was misspoken, or he could have done that better, or where he slipped up, or any of those things, and he tries to make corrections of those what he can. And I think that's one type of exercise that anybody could do to work on themselves, because as you know, when we interact with this reality, it's our energy field, and it's what we bring into it that gives us our world, because we're basically holographic projectors. We're the cast and star and also movie projector of our reality. And so the most input you can do to assist yourself is that focus, and work on what is subconsciously driving you, and bring that, they call that, pouring the waters of consciousness. And I've said that before, or bringing up, you can read Jungian talks about how you bring in that, the unconscious into the conscious mind,
Right.
doing shadow work and that sort of stuff, or inner child work, these sorts of things. And it doesn't have to be all day. It can be just a small part of your day to do that reflection work. And because that's where I feel kind of, I guess, deflated, sort of, where I'm not seeing enough of that in any of the realities, like truth community, sleep communities, all of these groups. It's just still very aggressively attacking kinds of energies, judgy, attacking, mocking, which is, I've done it all. I've done it all. And
I mean,
and because we get frustrated,
like mocking a little bit because it makes people laugh. But
you know what
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
What I mean is as a theme, like as an overall.
Like that's the constant, like, we're at battle, and I'm going to project out on my anger, and I'm going to accuse you. And I just want to give you some maybe good news. I mean, because of as my focus has shifted, you just said it perfectly. I'm finding more and more people that are in that resonance, right? So I'm not so worried about what anybody else is particularly doing, because I feel that as we come to this place that you're talking about with this, peace to me is and humility are the most powerful forces that we have. And then
what happens? So this is the paradox that must be understood to understand this place, is that I will feel like some people need to have it harsh, where not unloving. Harsh is not unloving, but to say your shit stinks, and I'm going to tell you your shit stinks right now. It's like saying, like, this is the Canadian way, right? Where someone has to say bad breath as an example, and you're like, ooh, that person has bad breath. I'll just back away a little bit or whatever, But if you were really thoughtful to them, you would let them know that you notice, and you could do it tactfully. It's that kind of scenario. So sometimes I feel like I have to, what I call the bitch slap occasionally, but that's the dura mater, the tough mother, right?
Right. When it's done in love, you're absolutely right. I have what I call the cosmic frying pan. And right. So I do see that, like, somebody is so stuck, and it's not just a stranger. It's always somebody that I really love and know. And then you see them repeating patterns, or they've got these mind loop thoughts that they're like cassettes in their head, and or bad breath, or you see them harming themselves, because ultimately they're harming themselves. So that's where it arises from. You can often shake them into attention because they're not paying attention. So they're ignoring something, and you shake them into attention, and they know when you do it with love. And they might go away and pout for a few hours or a day or two, but they come back.
Yeah, it's been my path my whole life. And I just know when there's a sensation that comes with it. And I know that the delivery has to happen the way it has to happen. Right. And I have to just be okay with the repercussion of it, whatever it may be. And, and it's part of, and it is evolved individual who's done that spirit work, because I think as a teacher, you know, if you're called to that, then it's automatic. I mean, I would have people coming to me, like students basically, and they just showed up, just like when teachers showed up for me. I had teachers come to my door and show up and stay with me for a year or whatever. It would always happen to me because they were to impart something to me. But then it was for me to take that as a teacher and, you know, move it forward and help others learn it. And sometimes it was, you got to get your act together. You know, I had to tell a couple of millennials, quite a few actually, that you can't walk around stinking like crap. Like you have to actually wash your clothes. I'm sorry, but your mom isn't there for you now. So you're going to have to take care of those things. Right. So and that's a community involvement. And I think that's what I'm really always wanted to see proliferate is this. And I saw this beautiful video today. This video, hi kitty. This video was this video was of a man in a subway, an elderly man, shirtless, sitting on the subway, and it wasn't really balmy out. And so another gentleman, a younger man, took off his overcoat and his shirt and gave it to him. And you could see these other witnesses watching. And in the video, the person was saying that when you actually give freely like that, you get a hit of oxytocin. So you actually feel happiness when you do that, genuinely so. When it's coming from genuine, not giving to get, when you really genuinely care and you give. And it can create oxytocin flow in others as well. And you see the gentleman leave now that the man is dressed, and another gentleman approaches and gives him his food. And then the woman sitting next to him goes into her purse to give him something. So it's this type of feeling that we need to get to, where it's not agendas or, oh, help me because I'm hurting, I'm going to pull on you because you know something and I want it from you. And as practitioners, we get this all the time, and it's very exhausting, and it puts the practitioner in a very uncomfortable position where now someone is trying to take theirs, instead of being self-responsible, they're trying to put it onto you or pin it onto you. And I get pulled into all kinds of situations like that. And I just want to bring people's awareness to that. If you do, you know, so I'm not doing consultations right now. I just couldn't anymore. I mean, it just got to the point where
so much. I don't know how you do everything you do, because I do follow you. You know, I see your new website developing and putting out protocols and trying to reach a broader expanse of knowledge, and it's fabulous, but you must get exhausted.
Well, and I do have to consider, if you love yourself and you're paying attention, doing the self-awareness, then you have to know when you have to put a boundary up that's a healthy boundary for yourself. And others might not like that boundary, and you can't really do much about it. But the hard thing is you don't want to let them down either. So it's been a dance around that. But, you know, just to have an etiquette. I've mentioned this one time before about healer etiquette. Like, just because somebody has the knowledge, or just because somebody can help you, doesn't mean you just, you know, hey, Amanda, can you give me your advice on this? I get like probably 100 people asking me for free advice every day.
I'm sure you do.
You know, and I can't do that with everybody. And sometimes it's easy and I can do it, and sometimes it's not appropriate. And what I noticed though of these people is not one of them offers anything in return. They don't go, I know you're not taking consults right now. Can I just, you know, pay? I don't have PayPal.
Right.
But can I Bitcoin you, whatever, you know, just to answer me this real quick or something off, but you want a response, but you don't want to offer anything. And that's just I'm so tired of that behavior, because it's selfish. It's, I need it and I want it and you have it and you're going to give it to me because you have it. And it's like, oh, okay. I guess that's how you see me, as like I'm a search engine for you, you know?
Yeah.
And that also is not a mature approach,
Mm-mm.
or consciously aware approach to do to anyone. And I don't do that to anyone. I offer, what would you like in return for this? Um, like if we're sharing something, how can I, what can I do, or what can I pitch in? Maybe I don't know at the beginning what to offer back, so I wait until I can see it. But my mind is always working on how can I compensate this energy, because everything is homeostasis in the body, homeostasis in energy fields, and in vibration. If you want peace, then you're looking for homeostasis.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
because everything's always in flux ultimately inside of ourselves.
I really empathize with that, and it's certainly not to the level that you're dealing with it, right? I mean, I have X amount of people that come see me, and I'm not out on the internet telling, offering health advice or anything. And part of it is that is so reflective of their state of being. Even if you gave them the information they want from you, it wouldn't do anything. That's where I finally, it's kind of like that, because they're not doing the work themselves. And even with all the information that's available to us, where did I find all my information? I was curious. I got into, I read, I experimented on myself, and life has brought me some, like you said, many beautiful teachers too, some hard ass ones also. Can I jump something before I forget it? Because when you were telling the story of the oxytocin and how that spread, right, that good feeling, and how other people picked it up, somehow I think that's within the understanding of how people get sick. Right. And that's, the hormones are so important in this whole dance inside of us. And, people are looking for like some paper out there that explains how everybody in a family gets sick at the same time, or, the seasonal flus, or what, why does this happen in group settings? But if you look at toxicity, you can spread toxicity, or you can spread goodness, really, health, right? I mean, just we're so much more connected than we've been allowed to believe.
I remember one time I went to the post office in my little town, and I was standing there doing some business, and a gentleman walked in who was extremely obese, to the point where he couldn't really walk upright, and his legs were really, he was having a hard time actually walking. And he had, it was a very long hall to the desk. And I started to, now it was quite far away from me, but he quickly filled the room with this stench. I mean, he was obviously unable to really clean himself, and there was a lot of mental illness, and he had a lot of problems. And I empathized with him. I felt terrible to see that someone, he was a little boy one time, he was a baby one time. I see people like that, I'm like, you were a baby once. You were cute somewhere in there. And I thought, oh my God, like, how would you, I didn't even know where I would even start with someone like that. That's where my mind was. But the smell was so noxious, and it had a very particular underpin. Now I have the nose of a bloodhound from after I gave birth to my daughter. Like, I can smell everything and anything. And I could smell all these different notes off of him. And as I was leaving, I felt like it was in me. Like, I felt like whatever I inhaled was still with me. And even when I drove home and got home, I could still smell it. It was still with me. And I immediately felt like it was going to take me down. It was going to, yes. And so I showered, and I high dosed vitamin C, and I took a bunch of stuff just to like boost myself. And the next day I was not quite right. I didn't feel very right, but I was like, but it did something for me. was the beginning of my understanding of pheromones. I didn't really study pheromones all
Right.
too much, back then. That was many, many years ago. But I knew this was remarkably different, and it did something to me specifically and in my scent, with the scent. And so if you can imagine that that was something I actually had a full, scent cascade from.
Mhm, mhm.
Now think about the subtler signals that we have that actually don't trigger the taste buds and those sorts of things.
Right.
That's right. Now, what does that do? And we know obviously that like one of the examples, as we've said, is with the women who cycle together,
Mhm,
right? That's pheromonally triggered. You don't necessarily smell them per se,
mhm.
or aware that you're having that signal, or attraction between males and females, or any type of animal in the wild will have that process, and that can affect you. That has a feedback to you. So as you said, there are different ways to understand what's going on, but not just meaning different, meaning correct. There has been misdirect in what's actually going on, not science. There's no science that's been properly done to explain
Exactly.
why these things are happening, and false science being created to use scapegoating for something else to blame that's so-called causing the disease,
So
so
it's
that it can be marketed into drugs and other therapies and so forth, but not the
right,
truth of why we would vibrate that way or be triggered by something, by
right.
someone else.
So in our body all the time with the parasites, the fungal, I mean, all these things that were a symbiotic relationship inside our bodies, right? Bacteria and all of that. So my understanding is that when the body gets toxic or whatever, they go to work and they transform. And so that material is actually dying, right? The cells are dying, right? So if you can imagine, I mean, you're making me think along a whole new line of a different thought process here, is that these signals, whether they be pheromones or different types of hormone signaling, if somebody's getting sick in a family, they're also emitting something in that, right?
Mhm.
And so, and especially if you're in a close group, or that maybe there's a discourse, or people have gotten mad, or who knows what goes on in families. Everybody just says, oh, well, they all got sick together. But many families are toxic emotionally, mentally. There's so much narcissism out there that it's off the charts. So it would be so interesting to really be able to do some studies along these lines.
I think there's quite a few lines of science that need to happen. I think there's one that underpins perhaps a genetic similarity where there's a resonance, so you get you're more likely to have a sympathetic resonance with your family
Mhm.
members, especially under similar circumstances, because genetic display is never the same in even twins. It's different
Right.
because the environment starts to impress right away.
I heard the
But if
story you told with Abe from Fakeology, you know,
yeah,
the twin. So yeah, go ahead.
right. But however, there are still similar metabolism and other sorts of things that can be there, that that mean when your own environment of your living conditions affect you, then there's some similarities and so forth. So it'd be interesting to see what would trigger. Is it because the weather changed? Because we see that all the time.
Mhm.
Sudden weather changes triggering families into that. That's always what I saw cold and flu season being, where there was a new challenge inside the family unit, and new foods or different exposures to sunlight and these sorts of things. And that changed the environment. It changed the internal environment, not just the external. And we know in Chinese medicine that you can get wind invasion through the
Mhm.
back of the neck. And wind invasion can affect your meridians, and the meridians then go into different cycles because
Mhm.
of that, right? And that might be a trigger for the body to go, okay, well, now we have a new cycle, which means this junk drawer back here, it's been fine been fine, but I think it's time to clear out the, the used, tissues and the packet and the ketchup packets and whatever we got in there. I think it's time to throw this out, right? And that might not happen because of other things that are going on. Say you're outside all the time and you're sweating, so the body's already, getting rid of things, so it's maintaining and it's fine. Now you stop sweating all of a sudden because the weather's colder. The body's like, well, you stop sweating.
Right.
we gotta do something. We've got to get this out. So it'll be interesting, that the new science going forward, how we look at the world and how we try to understand our patterns and our triggers, because we 100% know it's not a virus.
Right.
Okay.
No, I mean,
And
it's like, for me, everything that's been kept in the subconscious and in the shadow realm, it's all coming to the surface right now, individually, society, all of it. So, because we have to deal with it.
yeah, and I brought some books out to just show
Sure.
everyone, if they want to understand a little bit about our own lineages. And again, anytime you read anything, part of you has to suspend what you think you know. So there's that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of you has to align and find links to what you do know to see if there's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then another whole part of you has to be okay with things that might not resonate at all, or might actually be incorrect and they didn't know. Like they wrote it and they didn't know. And that's okay. I mean, how are we going to advance science if everything's black and white, everybody has to be 100% correct, nobody can make mistakes? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? It's always a flourishing of the information. And so there are things that I might not agree with 100% in these books, but it doesn't matter because they're still foundational. It's still foundational.
I'd like to see them. Their genetic expression. Okay.
So Dr. Conrad Worthman.
Okay.
This is the 4 steps of isopathic therapy from the Semmelweis Institute. Okay. And it's really not, it's a translation, but it's important because it helps you understand things like candida, and we have a huge problem with candida. In fact, soon I'll do a presentation on it. I just have a big DMSO presentation coming up with Dr. Kaufman in a week and a half. So I have a lot of prep work to do. But in this book, for example, 1 second, I have some papers in here. The cyclogenies are really important. So this is basically, if you're talking fungus, this is from Dr. Einderlein's important work.
Okay.
And that we have a type of cyclogeny that is our natural microbial milieu that behaves a certain way under the proper pleomorphic conditions, right? And your terrain is supposed to be proper, so that those behave and do the work and the job. But like if you hired someone and you said, oh, I need you to do this job, but you put them in the wrong room, or you filled a room full of junk, or, they couldn't do that job. So it's the same concept. And it helps you understand what these lineages are and kind of how they move and change and why. Okay. And then the other ones are based on Sanum therapy, which is a type of homeopathic therapy that helps to correct the terrain and rebuild those cyclogenies so that they are not in an erroneous state where they're causing a lot of inflammation or bodily chaos. Now, I don't usually go here unless it's very dire, because I find I can correct the terrain through fasting, detox, and nutrition, most of the time. But there are special cases or stubborn cases like diabetes type 1, for example, that need this sort of approach. So this is,
I heard you mention it. Okay. And it's using homeopathy, or it's a homeopathic type of approach?
So these are specific Sanum remedies and approaches. This is another one by Krebs. Now,
Awesome.
these are practitioner books. So this is, this is going to be obviously more for if a practitioner sees this video, I would suggest to them this will be helpful for a practitioner's mind. This anyone can understand.
Okay.
These other two are a little more complicated, but still, it's talking about how to use these particular Sanum types of remedies in different, states of the body, essentially. So there, and a lot of it has to do with alkalizing first. So you alkalize the terrain first because the pH is important. And of course, that's the amount of hydrogen ions that we have in the space. And making sure that that electricity, because that relates to electricity, and electricity relates to our waters, and we are primarily waters.
Mhm.
And when the waters get congealed with gunk, then nothing flows in our body. And then the microbial milieu and your somatids, their jobs change from producing vitamins, minerals, and so forth, and the signaling, to trying to get rid of the toxic waste dump that is festering inside your dirty waters, right? And then it becomes more congealed so that is also a problem, because now something has to eat that, and something has to digest that, and something has to poop that out.
Poop it.
And then the poop has to go somewhere, and so forth. And if you simply just think of yourself as a swimming pool, there's that classic terrain theory based meme out there with the two fish bowls, and one's dirty and one's clean. It is an excellent analogy, because it's really what's happening. Now imagine what kind of blooms, algae blooms and things that happen on fetid water that's sitting, what types of creatures live in those things. Parasitical ones, things that will eat waste, things that digest waste, things that break down dead tissue, things that take other things back into the soil, or back into the air. And that's what's happening inside your body. And if you can, so personal hygiene, and I don't mean just washing your body, that when I say hygiene, I mean through and through hygiene. What you put in here and what comes out down there and everywhere else, that is your hygiene. So you have to consider and make those decisions on a daily basis, because people put things in their bodies like, I'm aghast at the amount of alcohol drinking that happens. I'm really shocked at it when I see it, because it is pollution. It's pollution. And then people wonder why they're in pain, or they don't heal well, or they don't sleep right, or they have all of these problems that they can't relate to one another. Because if you have a pain in your head and a pain in your foot, it's related to it. Okay. And so they go to specialist A, specialist B, bounced around to all these kinds of drama stories of nothingness, and they get nowhere except drugged more. And you talked about pharmakia and this, that the sorcery. Well, it's interesting because, this comes from Greek languaging, and there, there's a lot of it in the Bible. There's a lot of misunderstanding of some of the root word and so forth. And some of the words are nouns. There's quite a few nouns, but then there's a couple of verbs, and they don't all mean the same thing just because they have the same root,
Right.
And it's essentially there's the aspect where you're poisoning someone through suppression, and that's a problem. But the real root of the pharmakia, or that pharmacy word, or why it was demonized at all, was because people were back then were using certain herbs or drugs or anything to actually elicit a spiritual based experience, or like a spirit. So to contact spirits. So they were drugging the body or poisoning the body to try to talk to spirits. Okay, that was the base of the root of the word, and then we took it to use it for other applications, right? So, you'll see it
Well,
demonized
thank
or
you for
not or whatever.
explaining that, because when I see that that's kind of the thing to say out there right now, pharmakeia and it's pharmacy and it's witchcraft, and you're right, it was, but old herbologists used poisonous plants for cures. And as I understand, Samuel Hahnemann came in with homeopathy because he wanted to alleviate the side effects. And some of the most powerful homeopathic remedies are arsenicum and, nux vomica, all these poisonous things. And I'm going to look into those books, Amanda, because I was fortunate enough to have worked with 2 homeopathic physicians here in Mexico during, the things that life got to bring to me. And I mean, I fell in love with it. It's one of the beautiful ways of, but again, people's belief, like you have to be a good practitioner to find the right remedy. So you really have to do a study of the case. And so people take a couple pills of homeopathy and it doesn't work for me. So you bring it up that it doesn't work. Right. And it works best for babies and old people and animals.
I love that's always been a huge love of mine, homeopathy. I did a lot of extracurricular training from my naturopathic teachings of homeopathy. I went to India twice for specific homeopathic training and the Indian way. And
different.
And if you understand that we are, like I said, waters with electricity, then you understand if you imprint waters with a memory, which we can do with all waters, they're very imprintable, or you can place upon it a memory. That alone explains some of the impact of homeopathy, but it's beyond that, because there's more happening to the medicine when it's so it's not just dilution or presentation. There's a succussion, there's a shaking aspect that's adding another layer of electricity to the remedy. And if your waters, and Hahnemann said this too in the Organon, he said, if you are polluted, then the remedy will not do what you want necessarily, because the electrical communication through the waters, so imagine a ripple effect, just won't go. It won't take, because you don't have the ability for that memory to trickle through. So the best way is to fast and drink water, be in water, and try to and take an enema, even if it's just a water enema. Just start, there, and then you can begin with your homeopathic application. It's like we have this most incredible, elegant systems of medicine they are the most sophisticated and elegant, and homeopathy being one of them, acupuncture being another, and all the different types of approaches of synergistic botanical medicines, that we have, and the energy medicines and the vibrational therapies and these things. We have, and I have all these machines. I have Tesla coil, violet ray machines. I have the Brown's gas machine behind me. I have a molecular enhancer machine as well. That's sort of an ozonator. We have so much available to us. And the concerning factor is the losing of these skills and the dilution of the art of it, that's seemingly lost, because there's less and less really seasoned practitioners out there, by design, obviously, because so many have been targeted. It's very hard to be in this world and know this information and just be sloughed aside because somebody is so ignorant. But it works beautifully when you can study it, as you said, and you can apply it appropriately to the case, and whether they know about it or not, because it's not placebo. So anyway, if you understand that that we are water, and that it's actually much simpler than how they've made it. I'm very
I was just gonna say
disturbed.
that they all work on the same principle.
Yes, and I'm very disturbed by most of my holistic colleagues, the naturopaths primarily, when I wade through their discussions in groups and things, very disturbed by the way that they come at the body. I to the point where I have to just walk away because I feel so overwhelmed by kind of their insanity that they pick on, well, they must get gene tested because, they have this affliction. That's their first approach, is to get gene tested. Oh, or
Right.
or so say a practitioner will ask a question, I have this case, here's the details, here's the situation. Well, try this or try that, or throw this at it, or I use this or whatever. And these practitioners are not able to think of the body as a holism. They're unable
Trying to
to
get out of the
actually
sun. Keep talking. I just
do it. Nice, you have sunlight where you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, please keep talking. And if you ever want to get away from your brutal winters, come to Mexico.
Yeah. Well, it's on my to-do list, that's for sure.
Okay, good now.
But anyway, and I wonder why these people can't get anywhere. I mean, I'll be amazed. And of course, then what they do is eventually they refer to an MD or
Same
they
thing
refer.
here in this town, Amanda. There's naturopaths here. You got a thyroid problem, they give them, some sort of thyroid med. A lot of them are vaccinated. A lot of them got vaccinated, and
I know.
I'm like,
Disturbing.
it is disturbing. And so, I mean, I'm not super skilled and I'm not as studied as you are by any means, but when I look at what they're doing in this town, I'm like, and they resort to sending him off. Well, maybe you should go get tested. Maybe you should go have the cardiologist.
Tested.
Maybe
Yeah.
go do this. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I took the same schooling they took, and we were trained in our observational skills. And so signs and symptoms and observational tests. That's how you find out what's going on. But they don't take the time and the energy to do it. And they defer to blood tests, biochemistry information, this sort of stuff. And it was funny because when I realized I'm not invited into their groups,
Right.
and I wasn't going to be licensed and I was on my own. I went, oh, right, well, that's been my path so far. So I don't know why that would change now. But I realized the freedom actually in the long run, because not only for speaking out and all of these sorts of things, but me realizing that the tests are a crutch and they damage your awareness and they lead you down a path of illusion and chasing rabbits, where you could find, it's like a bad biofeedback practitioner. If you've ever gone for biofeedback, you have AIDS, you have cancer, you have everything, and it's like that. They go in circular spirals. And so, because that's what I'm saying, that's where I was saying at the beginning, settle your waters and get to the essence and come to the simplicity and start. Pretty much on every one of those posts, I could have said the exact same thing, and it's this: detox the body, increase nutrition. What are you eating? Stop eating the poison. Are you doing enemas? You better, because
that was part of my getting out of my issue, was the coffee enemas too. You
better, get them on the enemas, whether start them with distilled water, move them to the coffee enema. Okay. Magnesium.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, it's that simple. Okay, besides first, stop eating crap, stop poisoning yourself, right?
Yes.
You also have to throw in there, work on your emotional thought patterns and the bad messages you feed yourself. Then clean your waters. Okay, so basically even a fast, even 24-hour fasting, distilled water fasting, do some enemas and magnesium. I'm like, okay, I'm there.
Because most people are deficient in the same things, because most people in the modern world are doing the same bad habits, right? So every practitioner in every era will have their thing that everybody, they see again and again and again and again, and they're tired of seeing it, and it's the same problem with maybe a little bit of different display. And they're like, take this, take that, and they're like, oh, you're so miraculous, you healed me. I'm like, you don't understand, you're polluted, and you're polluted in a specific way, and you're deficient in these particular things, you know? And it's like, I've had cases where literally the people have taken either their spouse or their children to all these practitioners and all these different specialists and all these stupid tests and all these blood work and all this torture to be told they don't know, obviously.
Right, that's a common
Right.
one.
So that's the end result. We don't know, but try this, because we're so science. Just try this, bro. I don't know. You know, that's what they freaking get out of this. And I say, well, what are you eating? You know? And they're like, well, it's a real problem. You know, all he eats is white bread and drinks white milk. And I'm like, oh, well, there's your problem. You know, stop that. Stop drinking the phlegm mucus forming foods and change it up, change to something else. And I give them a couple of suggestions, and then invariably they always come back to me and say, oh yeah, it was that simple. I'm like, yeah, it's that simple, you know. Stop poisoning yourself and allow the organs to rest and do their internal repair. And always think of your liver, because the liver is the receptionist of your body, and it will direct everything everywhere. It controls the gut, the bowels, the menses. It's part of your endocrine system. Your whole HPA axis is liver derived. It's your skin. It's it's everything, you know. It's your eyes. So do a castor oil pack, get your, you know, there you go. Let's get some detox up. And then what you do, you know, that's why I'm creating a whole new system of helping people, because I said,
is that going to be like an online course that people sign up for? And then
we're still designing. We're still designing, and we'll probably have to we'll probably tweak it as per, you know, as anything you launch, there's feedback and little things you'll tweak and whatever to make it better. But my feeling was, because there's so much similarity that has to happen, then what you do is you present first, here's where you start. Here's, you know, like you're doing a little board game, you know, start here. Right. Get your little car, the boot, or whatever you want to play, whatever your player is, you know, and start here. You know, are you doing these things? Well, don't do those things. And here's some things to do instead. And now let's reassess yourself from your symptomatology. You know, what's changed? You have to take a notebook. You have to do a daily diary, check in with yourself. What's changed? The other problem I always saw as a practitioner was you help them. They came in literally dying. Okay? They're literally dying. It's the most dramatic soap opera you'll ever see. And then by the end, they're like, fine, right? And they don't even have the consciousness of it. Like they've forgotten where they came from. They forgot, which is a mark of a good healer, is that they've forgotten what it was about, in a sense. Right. The disease force is gone, you know, and they're talking to you.
Sometimes fall back.
Well, what some do, but mostly if you're helping them transform themselves into new habits, if you're doing the doctor's teacher thing properly, ultimately, they should come with they should have a foundation. So anytime something happens, they know what to do. They have a go-to, right? So they always know how to approach it now. And because I don't want to keep seeing them all the time. I don't, this business model of keeping them kind of on the, no.
No.
Go.
I totally get that, but I've just seen it happen because they
Yeah.
forget. And I've
Well,
watched a few people that I really care about go from cobbling in, and I've been telling them for months and like, okay, Christine, whatever you say, I'm going to do it now. Right? Same thing you said. It's exactly the same thing. Diet, even because severe inflammation, severe pain, castor oil packs, detox the liver. And this is somebody who's been on so many cortisone injections the whole life, super suppression. All of a sudden there's this man exercising and he's lost weight and he's vital again. And then kind of forgot. That's what I was thinking, forget. And, loves to socialize, started drinking, and he knows that's the thing. And I'm at the point and he's at the point, it's like, you already know what works, right? So you're just going to have to engage your will again and go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that for those people, it's that they need someone else to be their motivation.
Right.
They are not self-starters, and they'll need a coach. And so for those people, if they learn that, then they know that they need a coach.
Right.
And so that might be part of their budget to have a coach that they check in with every so often to help them through. And that's a whole other industry, and that's completely acceptable and needed,
Yeah.
But I noticed though that when it's a complete resolve or healing, oftentimes they don't think of it that way because they're not in the disease brain, right? So they're off to, and some of them will go into polluting themselves again and that sort of stuff. But so what I mean is that you've got these doctors, these MDs or whatever, who get praised for suppressing symptoms and all this kind of crap. And then you have someone who takes people from the brink of death and it's like, well, bye, there's no
yay though.
very humbling.
But at the same time, you called it the art of healing, and it is the art of healing, right? It's an art form. It's not a one size fits all. It's art, and so the thing that makes me the most happy is to see somebody get well or make a breakthrough. Just that's all I need personally, and I'm not as, you've got so much in your work and your studies. And do you see some people personally in your
town? I have like my pre-existing, I have some pre-existing ones that I've continued to help.
Yeah.
And I'll get some severe emergency cases here and there. So my fees are really high for that kind of stuff because I'm actually trying to discourage it. That's my protection. But that's just so I can do this because it'll be better. It'll serve more people this way because they'll be able to go through the steps. And I would say 80% of them, if they do that, then they'll be fine, and then there'll be the last few percentages of people that need more specifics. Now they need a little tweaking or something really, they're on a lot of meds and they need a little more direction in properly coming off the meds. Because if anyone is going to help heal, you're getting off the meds.
And that's something I can't do with people because I'm not trained that way. So I can't tell people, I can talk to about side effects, I can say, but I can't tell somebody to get off meds. I don't feel comfortable going that far with it.
Yeah, I basically tell them that if they want it, I help them to understand what they're doing with the meds, because when you have a strong drug effect like that, and the goal is to stop the symptoms, meaning that the symptoms are the problem, right? Then all you're doing is reverting backwards, you're suppressing. So you're not actually healing things forward and releasing and going through that resolve, you're going this way. And so you can keep the beach ball under the water for a while until your arm tires, right? And so I said, so that's great. You can use that for now, But when you understand that that drug eventually will fail you, and all the while you're getting worse because you're never addressing the underlying condition, what's going to happen when the drug fails you? Where are you going to be at that point? So the best course of action is to work on the underlying problems, the root cause, and which is, all the same processes of detoxing, nutritional, moving the body, all the stuff. And then lift off slowly, always slowly, lift off slowly off the drug. And then you're in a position where if something still needs tweaking, you still have that drug as an availability in that world. But once it's gone, it's gone. Like once you've used it up, and now you're onto surgeries and other major crazy interventions that I don't know anybody long-term that's happy about that if they're alive still from it,
No.
Even knee replacements and hip replacements. I have had elders come to me all the time, deeply regretting ever letting any surgeon cut them and put screws into them, any of that garbage. They would have done well to have properly healed their hip with natural remedies and so forth than to go through a lot of this nonsense. And the drugs that they tell you have to be on for all these time, and this sort of thing. So if they understand the suppression expression thing, I always explain that. It helps them to understand why it's important to work their way off of the dependency, and that the symptoms might come back, and also that symptoms aren't bad things.
No, I know. I got it.
Oh, bad symptom, go away. Bad, like, what do this is what a 2-year-old mentality is. It's like, even to the level of healing, like lymphatic tissue healing and stuff, where you're really having to slough off stuff. There can be pain, when you're healing lymphomas and stuff. There can be discharge, there can be rashes, there can be bowel changes and stuff, and headaches. It's part of so people will start a protocol. They'll feel something that they don't like, and that's it. I don't want to. I don't like. But it's so backwards because they've been in pain for how long? Like, I've been suffering, and they don't want that little bit of different suffering.
Right.
But so they prefer to continue the long game suffering rather than go through the eye of the needle, their initiation really into awakening. Because I don't think this place doesn't give anything away for free.
Oh no. And we're going through collective
big one now. Yeah.
Huge eye of the needle, well, Amanda, I don't want to keep you forever. We've already talked for like an hour and 49 minutes.
No.
I could go on, and I'm so in resonance with you, and you're a wealth of knowledge. So I will get some things from Fabiana from you of when your website launches. Because are you going to have like groups of people so that they can communicate with each other? Because I find that's a very supportive thing too.
Yeah. So the idea is to obviously start more general and work to the specific. And when the groups pair off into the specific, so say it's a specific maybe it's LADA, the latent onset diabetes group or something. So people who are, or it's a long-term situation where they've already had interventions, so a lot of some of the serious interventions that, like, say they've had their thyroid completely radio ablated, which is probably one of the worst things you could ever agree to do. There's no coming back from that for those people.
It's gone.
It's gone. So they would need a different type of long-term, thing. So yes, the idea is to form little subgroups of, obviously people who are okay with that interaction, even if anonymously or so forth. And then once it's whittled down, I can do group Zoom with those subgroups, so we can all chat together and get answers together. And then and only then, if it comes down to a very odd case or a rare case or something emergency or something just strange, then I will do one-on-ones for those, but we've come all the way down to that point, not through and through, because it's not realistic for any practitioner, I think, to do this really, because unless you're just taking very small amounts and you're happy with that, then that's fine. But
you have
volume.
You have a very spirited voice that's very strong for truth, besides your knowledge, besides your studies and all of that combines to make Amandha Vollmer, right? And you're so I can see you're being taken into helping a larger group of people. Because if you have a small practice, that's it. You're going to get
that's it.
information to one person or another person, and
and what was happening, like I was getting 19, 20 clients a day sort of levels, and booked for a year and a half and this sort of stuff. And that was just not, when I thought about that, I'm like, this is wrong. This is not the model. At least for me, this is not the model. And we need a better option, and even if there was a naturopath or another holistic practitioner, it's like, I need to do this differently. This is boring to me. Even, who knows, like wherever they were at, maybe they didn't want the same, they wanted a new way of communicating or helping. Then it could be a standard model that people could use as well. Because I always have thought bigger. It's just who I am. So there has to be better structure. It has to be better organizational systems. And one thing about me is I'm efficient and I'm organized. And if it's not efficient and it's not organized, I don't like it and it's not done. So I will keep working at it until it's resolved. And so that's the same thing in this.
And you have some help now too. I mean, you're getting people to help you with the.
Yes, which took a long time for me to get to that position where I was okay asking for help, which I still struggle with, of course, because, having that perfectionist background means that you get to that point where, I'll just do it my damn self, at least it'll get done right,
I somehow relate to you. I'm just a few more years down the track, Amanda, that's all.
So it's like delegating has been challenging, but same thing, how is anybody going to learn if you don't allow them to go through it and make the mistakes and so forth? So I've had to do that with my business, and it's paying off. It's all new game for me. It's all a new realm for me in this, but it's exciting. I'm happy for it. And the nice thing is eventually the body of work will come together. And so how I see forward is this, all of the interviews and the work and so forth will combine itself into books, and protocols obviously will come, and these sorts of things, so that the information is stored and others can access it at any point in time, because it's not something that you hoard away. It's something that you want to share and for people to be able to understand and use in their day-to-day lives. And that's part of the goal that I have. So as much as I find that I'm taking things day by day, I'm still hoping and planning for stuff to continue on.
Right. Well, what else can we do? I mean, see, the more people that can take all of this madness, right? And all of us suffered in any number of ways, right? It was crazy making. And it's even crazier now. I mean, it's even more chaotic now. But so if you can take your energy and focus it into something creative, so that you're taking that life force and you're moving it towards a creation. It may be a painting. I see you paint. It's whatever. But always be, and it's even, somebody told me, a really nice, beautiful young man, that I'm very lucky because I get to meet a lot of really cool people in my life and here in San Miguel. But it's just like, it's one step at a time. It's almost a walking meditation towards whatever. You're being guided by a higher intelligence. All you really have to do is keep putting one foot in front of the other and get out of your own way, basically. And I
think it was Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The 12 Steps to Freedom. That was very pinnacle reading for me when I was in my university years, because of the overwhelm of all the things, right? And it was just, when you go to wash the dishes, you're not going to, the motivation isn't so that the dishes are done. You're actually washing the dishes to wash the dishes and be present with the dishes. You're washing that dish in that moment, not for any other agenda, just to be washing the dish, or sweep the floor or whatever and it's a good practice to get you back into the present moment. And when you're into the present moment, then you can access your own inner knowledge and you feel more connected.
That water thing again, right? The running water or the soap, the cleanliness of pure, you're cleaning. You're actually, well, they're dishes, but you're actually in the process of a cleanse.
Yeah.
For me, washing dishes is when I get some, or in the bath. Those are when I get insights. That's really when I get insight. So, there's so many simple ways we can practice our life. And to my amazement, because I'm very type A perfectionistic, I ran 5 businesses, I did, and by my amazement, like last year, I built a house. I'm doing it all on my own. I have my shop, and it was like, I didn't feel like I was the old me that had that just go get it, go get it, go get it energy.
Mm-hmm.
But in 5.5 months, I was in a house I built and designed and ran the crew and got the materials. And I sat there the first night on my porch going, how did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Isn't it strange? I had that recently too.
Yeah.
Because time has been very warped lately. And I was like, wait a second. So I'm in this house, all this stuff happened. I have all this expanding business and all this stuff planned. And I'm like, how many months has it been? Oh, you mean I moved in November, December, January, February, 4 months ago that happened? That's
Right.
it? Feels like 2 years.
Exactly.
Like, what just happened here? So you're right. When you just stick to the moments, you get to, there's a couple things. One, you actually get to experience it.
Right. That's a good starting point.
There's a good place to start. And 2, you surprise yourself at what you can get done in a certain amount of time. You really can, especially if you do reflection, because it is important to both also to plan forward and reflect backward. Both are healthy. And so when you do your reflection, you go, you did good. You did everything you could. You did your best. You get up every day and you do what and you reward yourself. That's the real reward, not getting ice cream at Dairy Queen. That's not a treat. That's a poisoning.
Or a new toxic chemical makeup, cosmetic or something.
Right, like exactly. So your treat is when you retreat and you acknowledge yourself and reward yourself by your own praise, your own acknowledgement and then, maybe as an expression of it, maybe a piece of art comes out or something, whatever. But there's a lot of reframing and retraining we need to do for ourselves and in all our institutions, in medicine, in science, everywhere is time for this paradigm shift, and it's here. And so we're gonna do well by it as long as we continue to have that self-awareness process and take our self-responsibility for ourselves and try to find whatever motivates you and let that be, your power and PowerPoint.
The thing that's been taken away from us is responsibility. And I call it radical responsibility. Like you have to actually be responsible for everything. Even the really hard things that came into my life, I found that they were the most needed things in my life. So instead of saying they did that to me and that was horrible, and it becomes some of the biggest teachers, right? And when you practice, like what you're speaking of, the more you practice it, it just becomes who you are. It becomes the state of your being, really. You don't have to.
And what you're right. And when you do that, it changes you into someone that carries wisdom. And when when you go into the world with the wisdom, the responses are different to you, like you alluded to in a few different discussion points. And I had an experience today, just as an actual case in point, was, what had happened is a lot of anxiety that crept in when I would go and now and engage with the normal world because of all of their conditioning and me not having any of it.
Right.
So obviously I'd been all kinds of things flung at me because I'm standing up for truth. And that leaves a few bruises, of course. So now I have to go through this internal process before I go out, to just bolster myself, like a pep talk kind of thing,
Oh,
which I never had to do before, of course. And so I had to go see a lawyer today. And, I'm like, these are lawyers. These are people in the system. They're licensed. They're, you do the thing that the law set,
right.
you follow mandates, but I just decided to ask this one parent when I dropped my child off. I said, do you know this particular lawyer by any chance? I got a good feel for her on the phone. And she was like, yeah, she's actually quite keen. And I think she's knowing what's happening. And I said, oh, so I got a good feedback on that. And then when I went to meet her, of course, I was not unmasked. She was, because that's her protocol. And she asked me if it would be all right if she took it off. I said, more than all right. Yes, please.
Right.
And we had a very candid talk about everything. And she's, like us, where a lot of people around her are asleep. Nobody wants to have the hard conversations. Everybody just name calls instead of actually going into the data or the facts or any of that stuff. And she's frustrated, and we talked about a lot of different topics. And I think she was relieved to be able to. And so I'm reframing, my point is I'm reframing my experiences. I'm healing that again, right? I'm expecting now to find that every time I go out. What's the odds in a small town I find an awake lawyer, whatever. So that's what I'm saying. It's just this sort of thing where you're learning real faith now, the real stuff, not a wing and a prayer. It's not to say that wings and prayers are, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
real test of your own trust, your trust of you, that you're able to learn and go through anything, doesn't matter what it is, because the fear is what holds you back the most. And that's where we get into anxiety states, ultimately, fear of outcomes. And I usually do sort of a worst case. If I do have a fear or an anxiety, I'll do a worst case scenario thing for myself. Well, what's the worst case scenario? Well, oh, it'll come down to money. Okay, it'll come. Okay, so if I died, then I'll just go home and come back probably again. I don't know. Hopefully I don't have to come back, but you can take, and then it drops away because you're holding on to some sort of fear. And once you get a hold of that, you can throw it away, but if you don't know, then it's just floating around you and affecting the way you're interacting with your world. And that makes more of the same, because you're going to make the lesson happen, because you're going to learn it one way or another. Yeah. So you're going to make it worse ultimately. Exactly. So that's why I like prevention is cure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love your transparency, right? I think that's what attracted me to you from the minute I was looking to make facial products, and I knew about DMSO, and that's how I found you. And, and then when this whole thing kicked off, your voice became like, it was just your bathtub videos. I mean,
my fiance will not permit me to do bathtub talks anymore.
No, that was like,
he's not comfortable with that anymore.
No, I can. Yeah, there's a time and place for everything. I get that.
Yeah,
right? But I thought that felt great. So yeah, and then the other thing, and we'll end on a high note, Amanda, is like laugh. remember to laugh, because there's a sound and a resonance and it's joy in spite of anything they want to throw at us. They're the clown show out there.
Mhm.
That's the clown show out there. And they want us to believe that they have power over us. Well, I'm sorry, they don't. You want to go that way?
Laugh and sing. Laugh and sing.
And sing and dance. And, it's just, but it has to, it does, like you were saying, it has to arrive from within you, right? I mean, a laughter, you can't fake laughter. You just can't fake it. So that's why I like laughter or mirth or getting somebody uplifted just through a joke, or, make fun of
Yeah, me
yourself.
too.
Make fun of
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
might get in one of these situations where, shit, man, I lost my cool. You can also just laugh at it and go, oh my God.
Oh, I'm the queen of goof, I will like that transparency. I don't, if it looks weird or if it's whatever, it's just honesty. It's being okay with being authentic, which can be messy, can be clean, can be whatever it is, but it's you being as true to yourself as you possibly can without being obtuse or abusive in a way, because I think there's limits to how you can put your expressions upon others, you know what I mean? But yeah, being authentic, but listening to the internal direction. That's where it's mastery, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just vomitus.
Well, that's
because
not
you can.
authentic, I mean, it's like it is when you are authentic to the real, wherever you want to call it, your soul, your being, that's authentic. That's and if you're being honest and transparent, you're not, because I mean, honestly, Amanda, of all the people I listen to, and you're probably the most expanded in consciousness, in the sense that you've looked at more things. You've gone down more rabbit holes, you've accepted more things, you've done your studies, but at the same time, a lot of people could get to the place where they're better than, right? Where they don't want to admit their faux pas or their moments of inappropriately expressed anger, whatever it is, right? So that's a good practice to keep yourself like, shit, man, to yourself, but also like make amends. I spoke harshly. I'm really sorry. I was in a really bad place myself. I was really angry at the world and I took it out on you. It's not that hard.
Or just say you're frustrated.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating time. It's frustrating.
Right.
It's wrong. There's a lot of wrongs. There's a lot of wrong things going on. There's a lot of people doing bad things to others and other things, and it's wrong. And we know that, and we don't like it. But acknowledging it is one thing, and then hating on it is a whole other thing. And it doesn't help to hate on it, other than maybe you need to blow off something, and okay, then you did that. But did you blow off something because you agitated your liver by drinking a bottle of wine? Well, then that's not genuine. That's fabricated by poisoning yourself and damaging your liver into anger, because the seed of anger is in the liver, and you agitate your liver with such things, right? So it's you see what I'm saying? So
yeah, I see it all the time. I mean, I'm sure that's the thing you've arrived at. It's when you see somebody or you meet somebody, it's not a judgmental thing. It's almost like you can look through that's presenting, and you see all the little aspects that are juggling around in there.
Oh God. And the trouble I've gotten in with that, because I saw through people. I always see through people. And, I used to go to a lot of conferences. I used to go to like the Total Health Show and whatever. And there'd be all these big talkers and stuff. And then I'd look at some of them and I'm like, oh, interesting. And they'd be like, oh,
yeah.
She sees me. Damn it. Don't look at her. And I get this a lot, because I'm like, why is that person so weirded out by me? Like, what'd I do? And it's because I can see the shadow in them. Yeah. And they don't like it. right?
Yep.
That's the practitioner's path.
Yeah.
You're trained, you've trained yourself to see it. You have to see it. It's
Or
part of what you do, you know?
right, either that or you know, some of us have natural abilities, right? They're just the
Mhm.
way we're composited in this particular body in this lifetime, you know? And it took me a long time to figure out why I would unintentional. I don't see through anybody intentionally. I'm not probing
No,
around in them, you know,
no,
but
it's
some
not
people
that.
have a violent, I'm not as much anymore, but would have a violent reaction with me, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Oh yeah. I've
Yeah.
had lots of that. Yeah.
And
Or just,
so
yeah,
I have a
because
group of really beautiful healer women mostly here. And, you know, this is one of the things we talk about and help each other through
Mhm.
because it can be confusing sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what happens if you're a good person, what happens is you think it's something wrong with you. The first step is what's wrong with me? What did I do?
Mhm.
How did I make a mistake? How was I not conscious? Did I
Mhm.
do something unintentionally? And I
Mhm.
got to check it. I got to check myself. I got to figure it out, right? And then you pick. But it wasn't you at all. It was just who you are, and they were just reacting to who you are, and it's nothing more than that. And trust me, it's been a difficult challenge because of business, because of this,
Mhm.
in hiring and having staff and so forth too, because they have to be able to be all right with their faults and also their shadow work and so forth,
Mhm.
because eventually it'll come to the forefront because it always does, and it
It
has to
always
be
will.
addressed, you know.
Mhm.
And so a lot of, you know, the turnover of staff can happen because of that, because, you know, they're like, oh, well, here's my limit. I won't go there, or I can't go there, you know? So it's a fascinating journey so
Right now,
far.
I'm a one-woman show right now because that's just where I'm at. Well, this is my learning time right now for me. And I'm not in an expansion of anything at the moment except for conscious.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I hear you. Well, I feel like you're my like I've always felt this, so it's nothing new, but I feel like that lady's my sister over there. Like I know that woman, you know, I really
Yeah,
love.
it's nice to have the meeting of minds, of course, you know, especially when it comes to something so profound as the healing arts,
Right.
because it can be, you know, kind of, if you don't have that outlet. And this is always what I miss the most about sort of being marginalized in my own groups, my own naturopathic, you know, colleagues, is not going to conferences and not celebrating our medicine and not having collaborations and talking about cool stuff. And, you know, I miss that so much. And I thought I part of my path felt like I have to miss this. I miss something. I'm there, meaning like I'm longing for it. Like I long
Exactly.
for that sort of thing that I feel like my contemporaries had. They had the discourse, even if it was argumentative, at least they had the ability to speak and to be heard and to have feedback, and in your art, in that in the science, right? And we don't. It's very here, it's very insulated. So at some point, you know, I feel like maybe when I'm a full crone, maybe when I'm in my crondom, then there'll be a time where we'll have the the real discourses again, the
Well,
real.
I mean, I feel like a deep friendship and kinship with you, right? So, and it's part of what I provide across male, female, older, younger people is just a place to explore together, you
Mhm.
know? So, I mean, what I'm just saying, Amanda, I'm here if there ever comes a time, and I love what you do. I mean, I do have a scientific bent, right? So I'm like hungry for any experience or any investigation that's going to open new fields for me. So if it ever
That's
comes
great.
to it or whatever, it'd just be, yeah, yeah.
Well, as long as, you know, I've been nervous about the chartering of planes because so many little planes have crashed lately. But at some point, if I can check out the pilot, I will charter a plane and I will go to Mexico because
Oh, it'd be so wonderful. So many of obviously Canadians have come here and yeah,
or I'll
and
drive, or I'll just
just
drive.
drive. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal. And it's a fabulous, totally different. I love Canada. See that I at one point I thought of going and living in Canada, but there's still like, there's a kind of a crazy chaos magic in Mexico that
Mhm.
very much life, right? Even though
Mhm.
people wear masks and stuff, it didn't quite get taken into, it's going that way, but into the whole modern, the saddest thing is when the year of the lockdown says they, no fiestas. Do you know what it's like for a Mexican not to have a fiesta? They have a fiesta for everything.
I
You
know.
know? And so
Oh my
at least
goodness.
now they're out dancing in the street, lighting fireworks again, and it's festive. Mexico's
Yeah,
fiesta. So
festive.
you're welcome here anytime, and I would like that.
Yeah, I loved Acapulco. I traveled through Chiapas and
Oh, wonderful.
Acapulco
Yeah.
before, and I felt very at home in Mexico. I felt it was very comfortable
Yeah.
there in my Central American travels. So
Yeah.
that's great. Well, thank you. This has been a really
Yeah,
great
it's
talk.
wonderful. And, just we'll stay in touch and I'll send you links. I'm going to write quite a detailed little article with links. I'll put up the thing you're doing with Andrew Kaufman on it and anything else I can find. Okay.
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 Thank you.
Blessings. Love you. Bye-bye.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye.